Hello everyone, this is Dor from Doorway to Possibility. Today I'm here to talk to you about the art of being in a spiritual movement. What does it mean to be in a spiritual movement? What does it mean to be spiritual? What is spirituality? And we're also gonna go through all this spiritual movement and look at them in a different light. So even yoga as a spiritual movement, and the difference between the yoga that you find in studios and the yoga that you have from a enlightened being delivering you yoga through thousands of years from teacher to person, and also other spiritual movements like being Jewish. And I'm not saying Judaism in purpose. So Judaism is a religion. Being Jewish is being part of a spiritual movement. And I'm also going to talk about the Zen, the Islam, Sufism, Christianity, Jesus. And I'm also going to talk about new spiritual movements like possibility management. I'm going to also talk about some outlaw spiritual movement like OSHO and the Rajneesh cult. and there's so many other enlightened people and so many events that happened that I'm going to mention in this video. So I'm here in San Francisco next to the Golden Gate Bridge. There is this beautiful fine art center building thing, and as you all know, I'm on my adventure and I see these beautiful places. I just hop on them, and I'm here to discuss with you the content that come into my mind, into my heart. And this is not about being wrong or right. This video is not about saying what I think is the truth, because I don't think there is truth. I don't think there is right or wrong, and I don't want to talk about the intellectual aspect of this. This is not a comparison or I'm going to give you this point about every religion. It's not about that. It's more about experience. In my experience, I've been around, so to speak. I'm doing yoga more than 12 years, and I've been in ashrams, and I met Sadhguru, which is one enlightened person, and I also study all self-development all these years. So I met all these mentors that are part of the self-development spiritual movement. So I've studied all these things. I research history, and I research enlightened people, and I researched Christianity and all these spiritual movement. So what does it mean, a spiritual movement? What's the difference between that to religion? So we're going to start with that. Spiritual movement is something that started like it's almost like a cult for us. It's like a bunch of people deciding that there is something greater, and they say, I don't know what else is there, and I want to go on this exploration journey to find out. So I wonder if upon hearing that, maybe you already think, maybe I am in a spiritual journey. Maybe I'm a part of a spiritual movement, because me and these 4 other guys are exploring spirituality in cenotes, in caves or something. I don't know. It's like there's no one through fence that you can put around what it means to be in a spiritual movement. And then a way to kind of grasp it is what happened when a spiritual movement become bigger. So there's all these people that are not spiritual that are coming into the spiritual movement because it becomes this social thing. It's not about really going outside your box, like we say in possibility management. It becomes something social, like it has social aspect to it. Maybe it has an economical aspect to it. Maybe it has social, kind of this social up and down kind of pyramid kind of thing. And then you see, for example, a good example with it is if you watch Wild Wild Country, the movie about the Rajneesh, the spiritual movement started by Osho. So you could see Shila is main character there, the main character, and she said in the beginning, I'm not a spiritual person. I didn't come there to do meditation. I didn't come there to evolve spiritually. And you can see her journey in that. So that's what happened for spiritual movement. There's all these people coming in, and they don't care about the spirituality part, and they start to organize it. They start to organize and put in structure in the spiritual movement. And it actually has a service to the spiritual movement, because sometimes, people on the spiritual path, they need money, or they need, land or something. And then the organization helps, and also it's what starts the end of the spiritual movement. As you can see, Shila, because she wasn't spiritual, she really didn't realize what it's really about. And she literally destroyed the whole thing with her shadow purpose. She wasn't aware of her shadow purpose, and she literally destroyed this whole thing. So another big thing I'm going to throw here, a couple of distinctions. So shadow purpose is a distinction. What is a distinction? And if you can see a lot of religions there, or a lot of spiritual movements, there are a lot about distinctions. So distinct one thing from the other. So for example, someone can tell you you need to keep the Shabbat. Jewish people on Shabbat, they can't drive and they can't do anything. So someone can just tell you that, or it can give you the distinction. So that day is meant for you to relax, to synchronize your energy back, to be with your family and stuff like that. So there's a distinction here. And I'm going to use some of these distinctions. For example, the shadow purpose, what I talked about, Shila, is a distinction that comes from possibility management, which in my eyes, it's kind of a new, unorganized spiritual movement. I'm not aware if the people inside there, like those people, are going to agree. And in possibility management, there is a big, we don't want to be we. So there's no we. It's like I can be in possibility management and say all these things, and there's someone else who totally is somewhere else and is not, it wouldn't resonate with nothing I say here, and we're still both doing possibility management. And that's how it keeps this spiritual movement from getting organized. So that's actually beautiful for me. And there's this distinction in possibility management about the shadow purpose. And the distinction is we all have a shadow purpose. It's not bad, it's what helped us to survive all these years. It protects us, and also is going to help us to be aware of that. So why is it distinction? Because before you heard that, for you it was just Shila or just me. And now you have a distinction between you and your shadow purpose. So that's split things in half, and that distinction is what actually is, I think, one of the hearts of spiritual movements, because that's what we grow our understanding on. So that's what we stand on, all this distinction, and it's actually the purpose of it, in my eyes, it's making us more aware and more sensitive to things. So it's increased our perception. So in yoga, Sadhguru speaks about the purpose of yoga is increasing your perception of life. So when you perceive more of life, you have more of life in you. So you have the union between what you call as me and life. And that's the literal meaning of yoga. Union. So increasing that perception. So this distinction help us. And also, when I was in the ashram and I did this advanced course in the ashram in India by Sadhguru, it's in Tamil Nadu, I got this distinction about responsibility, for example. So responsibility, it's a distinction that you see in a lot of spiritual movements. And it's about, so before that someone say responsibility, for me it was I'm getting blamed for what I do. So if I take responsibility for these people in accident, it's my fault. But the distinction was that responsibility is actually my ability to respond. So I can respond to anything, and that's my privilege of being alive. That's the amazing thing about being alive. I can respond. Even if I do my best and I can't help these people in the accident, I still can be responsible by responding. Maybe it's just gonna be like, I wish I can help them, and it's like this respond. So I'm still responsible for that without being blamed. So there's a distinction between what we used to know as responsibility and the new path of responsibility. And so we're going to talk about responsibility more, because it's a threading line between a lot of this spiritual movement. So one way to see what is a real spiritual movement is it tells you need to take radical responsibility, like we say in possibility management, or you need to take responsibility, like I heard in yoga, in the ashram of Sadhguru. And also I see it in part of being Jewish, like taking responsibility for your nature, for what are you standing for. And that's actually a threading line. So it is, how do I know if I'm in a spiritual movement or in just an organized religion? Or how do I know if I'm part of this industry? So part of what I'm going to talk in this video is being a part of the new industry, the new, studio yoga and like chakra meditation, breathing, mindfulness, body movement, ecstatic, So being part of this new movement, so how do I know if I'm part of it, and how do I know if it's a real spiritual movement or it's not? So it's a lot about responsibility. Is the spiritual movement radical responsible? And so responsibility is something that we don't take as a we. It's like that's another distinction that I'm going to introduce here. We together cannot take responsibility. Only I can take responsibility. I don't want to talk too much about it, but if you want more information about this distinction, you can ask me. And so part of it is like, am I taking responsibility in my journey as a yoga teacher in studios, or as a chakra meditation, mindfulness facilitator? Am I taking radical responsibility? And that can be the difference if maybe I'm starting a spiritual movement, or I'm just part of this organized industry that his purpose is more social, economic, shadow, or it's spiritual. So that's a distinction. That's the beginning of this video. We have a beautiful journey. I'm going to take some footage around. Thank you for joining. I really love when I see all these people watching these videos, because I know that I deliver my distinctions and I deliver my spiritual path. Let's start. Okay, we continuing from the Golden Gate Park in San Francisco, and there is an artistic part to being in a spiritual movement, and there is not such an artistic part, and that's what I want to touch on in this part of the video, because sometimes it seems like it's an easy choice to be in a spiritual movement. Now I'm spiritual, everything I do is the truth, I know better than everyone, kind of thing, and I can live my life, do whatever I want. And I want to start by talking about the problems that we used to and have by being a part of the spiritual movement. So I'm going to start with Jesus, the story of Jesus. So Jesus was basically prosecuted by the religious institution at that time. So the religious institution at the time and the patriarchal empire at that time, which was Rome. So people that are part of the patriarchy, they're not willing to accept the spiritual movement. Because why? Let's think about it for a second. So let's say a friend of mine is changing and developing and suddenly doing all this weird thing, and suddenly he started to succeed. It looks like things are working for him, and I'm like looking at him, and what is the feeling that I'm going to feel at that moment? I'm going to feel fear, because now that my friend is doing something different, and now it means that maybe I need to do something different, and that freaks our box out. It's like freaking out. It's like, what? I'm gonna need to do something different? Shit, I don't want to change. I want to stay here where it's comfortable. I thought for a minute that I know everything already. And so that's why people don't like spiritual movement, because it's freaked their box. And in the same way it freak one person box, it can freak the whole system box. For example, a patriarchal system or a religious institute at that time can freak out because someone is doing things different and developing. So when I say patriarchal system, by the way, so when I talk to this about people tell me that for them patriarchy means the man rules, men rule. But actually the patriarch, it means the father. So it's basically a family house rules. So the father is the head of the family. So the rule in patriarchy is based on these cells of units of, let's say, families in many cases, or it can be other form of cells, and they form like there's a head to them. That's why it's called patriarchal, because there's a head to this structure, to this cell. So it can be the father, but it can also be the system. Like it can be the Queen of England. So the Queen of England, she's patriarchal because she's acting like a patriarchy, like the cell, her family rules all the other families or whatever. So that's what I mean when I say patriarchal. It's basically a system that worked in the last 6,000 years of controlling. So it started, we were farmers, we had a field, and then we need to protect the field from other people that come to steal it, and so we build this castle, and someone need to be the king of the castle, and he's warning us against the others that they're gonna steal our things, and then we need to recruit to this army, and and that's how it's built. It's about, and also if I have a field, so I can gather grain, so I can store grain and I can give it to someone, and then who would I give it to? Would I just share it with everyone? No, I want to give it to my son, so it goes from father to son. And that was how the patriarchy created, probably 6,000 or maybe more, or who knows what happened in history. Anyways, and the patriarchy is always going to have problem with the spiritual movement, because spiritual movement is the opposite of the patriarchy. So here's another sign. If you want to check if you're part of a patriarchal organization or you're part of a spiritual movement, ask yourself, is it part of the patriarchy? Which means, does it serve the system that built like a pyramid with people in control, that the people in control are basically psychopaths that were more psychopathic than others, so they could reach to the top and control of that mechanism. So it doesn't have to be like this. So for example, we were in this village, let's call it a village, I don't want to say exactly what it was, and like an eco village kind of thing, and there was, so the people that controlled that organization were acting like patriarchal. They kept like the forest to themselves, and they were organizing all these families that rule. And so it's like you can be in this conscious community and suddenly you realize, I'm actually not in a spiritual movement, I'm part of the patriarchy. Why? Because the patriarchy works like our box. It just means His aim is to keep us the same. Keep us the same as we are, safe, protected the same. And a spiritual movement is meant to break our box. Not to break, but maybe expand, or maybe eat our box. Or maybe do something different with our box. And that's two purposes can't work together. Hello. So yes, to end up this thought about the box freaking out, it's also about what I started to say about Jesus, that once he started his spiritual movement, all the boxes around him freaked out and they witch hunted him. So they went on a witch hunt to get him. And I think he wasn't very successful in avoiding that. Or maybe he wanted to not avoid that. So we don't really know. And what we do know is every time something like this comes, it shakes the system. And that's what I started to say about the not nice part of being part of a spiritual movement. That our boxes are gonna freak out, and they might go on a witch hunt against you, or they might just there is a saying, I think by Gandhi, that first they laugh at you, then they first they ignore you, then they laugh at you, then they try to fight you, and after that they want to join you. So it's like that. It's like the beginning, everyone is just gonna be those weird people. They're just gonna ignore them. Nobody would want to join. Like, I bet Jesus in the beginning, his first Jesus workshop, nobody came. Like, what was this freak? He just came from India with his robes. It's like, what is he doing? What does he want? Is he even Jewish? It's like nobody wanted to come. And then after a while, people started to listen. More people gathered and more people gathered. Some people trying to shame him. And then the next part is it trying to fight him. And then they kill him, but then a lot of people join and continue the spiritual movement. And then what happened? So in the beginning it was just a cult, the Christianity. It was like this cult that they did what Jesus or his apostles sent them in letters to do, and it was this spiritual cult. It didn't, like, very secret, people working together, studying that mystery, which was a mystery back then, to listen to his teaching. And then suddenly they became big, and a lot of people came and started to organize it. Like, for example, it was the first king or something that accepted Christianity as the formal religion of that kingdom, or I don't know, empire, the Roman Empire. And it became the Holy Roman Empire. So then someone not spiritual come in and starting to organize that, and of course it probably started to get organized much before that king. So it started to grow. People started to organize it. That's how it grows. And then when it became a religion and not really a spiritual movement. And that's almost like the not nice part of being part of it. So if you saw this really bad Wild Wild Country movie, because I'm saying it's bad because they don't really show what is the essence of that spiritual movement, how it affected people. They don't show the growth and transformation that people there went. They almost ignore everything that was spiritual and just put the lens on low drama, on all the drama and the bullshit that happened there. But actually that's a really beautiful window and on the yuckiness of being a part of spiritual movement, because some person like Shila comes and starts to organize things, and they're not really spiritual, and you still want to be close to your guru or something to be part of the heart of the spiritual movement, and you can't control it. So they didn't show the people that were sad, probably, that other people in their spiritual movement doing all their things in their name. This is why probably a really good advice for spiritual movement is not to be we, not to take part as a we. And I think OSHO that mentioned, so OSHO mentioned it is his experiment failed. His experiment in creating this commune failed because he said everything we try to do, all this organization to create the commune and to create factories for producing red clothes for people and producing food, it's all the organization. It took away from being the spiritual part of it, because like I said, the world is already exists. The world with all the factories, with all the farms exists. And his conclusion was that he just wanted to create a school that people can come from the real world and study the spiritual movement aspect of it. So how do we actually evolve? What does it mean to actually be spiritual? It means to evolve. How do we evolve? So in evolution, if you have pain, then something new is created. So how do you evolve? You basically go into the pain. You find the pain instead of waiting for COVID to happen, or instead of waiting for this bad thing to happen in your life. Your relationship partner is gonna break up, or something horrible like I don't know, life is gonna, like, you get fired from your job, you get in a car accident, and then you feel all this pain and trauma, and then you evolve. Instead of it, you can just evolve by going into the pain consciously. So in every path there's this way of going into the pain. For example, in Zen Buddhism, it's sitting, meditating under a waterfall for a year. So, for example, in yoga, in ashram, there's all this hard sadhana. It's hard to wake up every morning 4 a.m. and to do this meditation and sadhana all day. And they have hardcore sadhana sometimes for yogis, like not eating and stuff like that. And it's hard to be Jewish and following all the mitzvot, all the things that you need to do every day. So in possibility management, we have healing processes. We get connected with the emotions from the past. So all this emotion from the past that carry a lot of pain and in our physical, energetical body, intellectual sometimes, emotional body, and we go to that pain to heal them. And so that's something that's actually missing for me a little bit in the new, like, spiritual movement, let's call it. So all the new instructors for studio yoga and like mindfulness, meditation, chakra, breath work, it's like where's the pain in that, and then where's the growth? Because sometimes it's just chocolate, and it's all about the chocolate. It's all about the result that you get after you worked, or after you dived into the pain, and after you evolved. And I don't think the case for everyone. I think some of that industry and some of the instructor I see for mindfulness and stuff, I think in some way, in their own way, they do take people in that direction in some way. And I think in a lot of cases there's no sword, they're just a chocolate. There's no pain, and then sometimes I see there's no growth in that. And to say that that you can grow with no pain, it's a bit of like living in a fantasy world. So it's like, I think if you really look at yourself, and I'm asking you, it's like if you really look at yourself and look at the places that you grew in your life, maybe it was very happy times for you, maybe it was blissful and everything was great, but I think the reason it was great, it was because just the time before that it was really hard for you. And so maybe it was in a time that you were playing in a park, maybe it was a time when you were playing in the park with all your friends and it was great, and then you say, no, my growth was not about pain. I grew because of my friends' support or something. But then actually, if you look at it, maybe just before that, you were kind of lonely and you didn't have all that, and that's why you're really happy about having all these friends and stuff like that. So there's almost like an event of pain before you grow in trauma, and it's not bad. We have this old story that pain is something bad, but it actually doesn't have to be bad. It can be, if you look at it like this, it's my doorway for growth. My thing here is go to that pain, search for it, and if you find someone that tells you some master or some path, some different kind of movement that tell you go to that pain, and it's probably someone that doesn't just try to sell you chocolates. Okay, let's move on. Oh, I want to put a sign here, and how can you combine spiritual movement together? For example, for me, I do yoga, like hardcore ashram, Sadhguru yoga. So I have practices that I do, and I'm on that path. And also, I'm doing possibility management, which is a different spiritual path. And I'm learning about my history as a Jewish person, and the matrix, which means the context of that and the practices, and I'm also exploring that. So, and I learned a lot from Zen Buddhism, and I'm taking a lot from that. And I did like Chinese martial arts, and I did Tai Chi, and I got a lot of sources from that. And I did self-development for many years, and self-development is also kind of the spiritual path, because it made me evolve, it made me grow. And I'm also doing so self-development. What I wanted to say. So yeah, I have one more thing I forgot. I'm going to put it here. So I'm doing a lot of things that are different spiritual paths. Now there is a trap here, and a lot of enlightenment people mention that trap. If you investigate it a little bit, some things that OSHO said, that Sadhguru said, that it's okay. Let's put a metaphor. Let's say you want to dig and find a well. You want to find water. So water, it's like you want to find your enlightened, or you want to find something very deep inside yourself, and you want to dig this well, and you started to dig, and then you stop and you find another place that you want to dig, and you start to dig there, and then you go in another well, and you dig in all these places, and you end up just with a bunch of holes in the ground instead of reaching to water, because to reach actual water you need to dig deep enough. What I wanted to say. So yeah, I have one more thing I forgot. I'm going to put it here. So I'm doing a lot of things that are different spiritual paths. Now there is a trap here, and a lot of enlightenment people mention that trap. If you investigate it a little bit, some things that OSHO said, that Sadhguru said, that it's okay. Let's put a metaphor. Let's say you want to dig and find a well. You want to find water. So water, it's like you want to find your enlightened, or you want to find something very deep inside yourself, and you want to dig this well, and you started to dig, and then you stop and you find another place that you want to dig, and you start to dig there, and then you go in another well, and you dig in all these places, and you end up just with a bunch of holes in the ground instead of reaching to water, because to reach actual water you need to dig deep enough. I mean, that's a metaphor from enlightened people, and that's why a lot of spiritual movements, they tell you just stay in this spiritual movement and the rest of them are wrong, or the rest of them are not working. Why do they tell you that? Because part of it, I think, for some of them is they want to keep you on one path so you won't get confused and just go guru shopping and go around and search for all the other spiritual paths. So in this way, you dig in one place. And I think the evolution of being on a spiritual path, there's even evolution to that, is actually maybe combine all this. Maybe they do work together in some way. So I came with this question when I started to do programs of possibility management. I came with that question, and one of the distinctions I got is that it doesn't work together, because mixing context always create this resistance. For example, I'm starting a community, and my community purpose is to take radical responsibility for the environment, and another person context is he wants to make more money or something like that. And if you combine those two people for a while, after a while the mixed context is going to be stuck against each other, and it's going to create friction and disagreement, and just is not going to work. So there's a way that, and I got this from possibility management, that mixed context can work, which is if it's aligned in its purpose. So if my purpose is to create a better world, and I'm doing that by taking care of the environment, and this other person want to take care of the world and he's doing it by increasing his resources, those things together can work because it has the same core purpose. And here lies the secret of how to mix between different spiritual movements. And that's bringing me to the question is, how many spiritual paths are you following? So maybe you're not aware of that, but by doing yoga, you're participating in a game world that is the yoga world, which is meant for a certain purpose, to get you enlightened energetically. And maybe you're also doing ecstatic dance, and ecstatic dance has this different purpose, maybe, or maybe it's the same purpose. So how much are you aligned with your purposes of the paths that you choose? If you chose possibility management or yoga, or you're practicing this, I don't know, even a religion, or even this shamanism, plant medicine path, are you aware of the purpose of it, and how is it aligned with other things that you do, and are you taking radical responsibility for that purpose? So that's a big question right there, and I encourage you that watching that to go with that question and ask yourself. So I'm next to this dinosaur here, bird, I mean. And so beautiful. And that brings me to my next part, my next subject. It's about looking good in a spiritual movement. And another reason why I call this the art of being in a spiritual movement is that there is a form to it. So there's let's talk about the irresponsible way to look good in a spiritual movement. So it's like wearing all the right clothes. You know, I just been in Tulum, and I could see like the dress code of the new industry spiritual movement. There's like this dress code with these capes, and of course the women have their whole other thing. And I mean, I like it. I think it's beautiful, more than the normal clothes that we buy from these huge corporations. And at the same time, what is the purpose of it? Is there a purpose of looking good inside the spiritual movement so you fit in? Is there a trying to be, is there a will, is there a purpose to fit in? And I see this all over, and that's actually a really big part of the patriarchy, to fit in so we be safe. Because if we fit in, we can give our center to the patriarchy, just blend in, nothing is going to happen to us, we feel safe. And in a spiritual movement, I mean, I don't want to say real, I don't like this word real, but let's say in a live spiritual movement, this looking good part is not going to really fit in. There's not going to be this dress code, the will to be, fancy, having all these extra gadgets and things. And things usually have a purpose. So for example, this necklace here, it's a talisman. When I wear it, it's not easy for me to wear it all the time. Sometimes I prefer not to wear it. And it actually helps me to jack into my archetypal purpose, which means something in possibility management that if you want to ask me about it, I can tell you. But it's not for beauty. So it's like all these things are not decorations. And that's a big part of it. That's the irresponsible part of looking good in a spiritual movement, like wearing the right clothes, saying the right things, knowing the right people that's gonna bring me up the ladder of the meditation patriarchy or something. And there's another actually responsible part about looking good. So how can you look good how can you look good in doing this art? Because when we do art, we want it to be beautiful, right? We don't draw a painting and we don't want anyone to see it. We want people to see it and to enjoy the meal that we cook or the painting or whatever that is. Right, so the beautiful part about it, first of all, you got into it. So it's like, wow, give yourself just a moment there. Like you decided to really go for being spiritual, going into spirituality, going into a spiritual community. There's so much risk and danger and pain in that, and you chose to go to that. And just take a moment to be in that. So there's so much beauty in choosing to do that, because 99% of the people don't choose that because it's scary and it's painful. So thank you for doing that. I have a story that's what the world needs, more evolution like that. And then once you went for it, it's gonna be hard, it's gonna be pain, and you're gonna have to do things that not a lot of people would do, and it's gonna take you outside what we call the comfort zone. And I actually think the comfort zone is great. Every once in a while I love to go back to my comfort zone, and even sometimes in different moments, to just be outside and then go back. But you might lose some friends on the way. some of your friends, like we say in the beginning, they're afraid you're gonna change, because if you change, they think they need to change, and it's scary. And they're gonna put you out to test. They're gonna try to get you back to the real world, try to get you back to modern culture. And once you're gonna keep on that path, you're gonna lose them, and maybe one day they're gonna return in some way. And there's a lot of fear, and fear is actually a beautiful thing. It's like it's part of your feelings. So one way to do it, and that's something we learn in possibility management, is connecting to your feelings, to your sadness, anger, joy, fear. Maybe sometimes you have mixed feelings. And once you connect it to these feelings, the journey becomes more beautiful, because the feelings actually guide you on this spiritual path. So sometimes if you don't know if the person that teaches you something is actually helping you grow or not, you can connect to your feelings and see what do you feel. It's like maybe you have fear that this person is not really doing what he's talking about. Or maybe you have anger because nothing is changing in the world, and you see that you keep doing the same thing but nothing actually happens. So a way to do this gracefully is to actually be outside in the world and change things. In yoga there is a talk about 4 different paths inside yoga. So you have bhakti yoga, which is devotion. It's about your devotion to the path. And there is, I'm just going to translate that. There is the mind, the intellectual part, and there's karma yoga. There's the yoga of doing stuff. So actually doing things in the world. Like I see so many people, maybe no one would call them spiritual, but I met them when I was in Green Course, Israel, and they were just doing for the environment all day. They do all day stuff for increasing awareness for the environment. And they give so much for themselves, so they're actually on the path of karma yoga. In other words, they're on the spiritual path by doing stuff. And there's the bhakti, like I said, the devotion, the emotional path. There's also the karmic yoga, the energy path, which is just, that's basically what is most of the yoga. If you go to an ashram with a guru, that's what they try to give you, more of the energetic path, to put you on all these sadhanas, meditations and stuff to get your energetic body working for being more evolved, the spiritual path. And then there's one more that I forgot, but it doesn't matter. So there's already all these ways to do this gracefully, and you can research about it, and you can start to investigate it like I did. Read all these books. OSHO talks a lot about paths inside enlightenment, and talk about other enlightened people that you can learn what is the thread that goes between them, and you can recognize more who's actually evolving you and who's just making money of keeping you the same. And another way to make this beautiful is connecting with people. So get out of this mindset of there's wrong, there's right, they know, they don't know. It's like just connect with the people on your path and see what are they bringing you. What do they need? Maybe they need something from you. Maybe they need you to be more aware to the way you speak, and that's going to be a spiritual path for you. And then you can go to your, I don't know, your group, your team, your whatever that is, sangha. In yoga it's called sangha. Your team in the path, and then you can bring that up. It's like people around me need something from me. How can I do it? So, and also a lot of times it's like, don't judge yourself too much. Don't beat yourself up. The spiritual path is so hard. My good friend Michelle, that's big part of what she brings forward is like, don't judge yourself so much. Don't beat yourself up. You're already on that path that you chose that so many people didn't. And just be with that. You know, it's not easy, and we go around a lot of times, you know, we fall sometimes. I heard that a lot from Jewish rabbis. They say that sometimes we trip, sometimes we fall, and that's okay. There's no good and bad, there's no right and wrong. Just let yourself fall sometimes, do mistakes, and let the path lead you. What else to do to create this path more gracefully? A big trap is mixed energies. So just be mindful where you are. If you are in this yoga studio or ecstatic dance where people are mixing their energies, and you can be more aware of it. If you want to know more how, maybe you can ask me. And so it's like mixed energy is gonna cause confusion in your energetic field. It's like if you go to a big city, you immediately feel that all these mixed energies coming and going. So it can be the same in your path. Even if you do something that can be beneficial to you, I see it a lot in the new age spiritual industry. It's like they're doing something like dancing ecstatically. So dancing ecstatically, it's like the Sufi dance. If you've heard about it, the Sufis dance like this. They have these hats, there's these turbans. And dancing can get you ecstatically, can get you enlightened even. And then they do it with all these people with mixed energies bouncing all over the place. And all the energies in the room is very mixed most of the time when I sing. So that's a big thing to be aware of, even when your yoga teacher touches you. In Hatha Yoga by Sadhguru, the teacher just sits after 6 months of training every day in the ashram. 6 months, day and night, everyday training. The teacher just sits in the corner and doesn't get up and just uses his mouth. He doesn't touch you, because when you're doing yoga, your energies are very exposed. And then someone touches you, even if it's the teacher, it can cause a lot of confusion. So that's one thing to pay attention to. The second trap that I want to mention here before we end this is like the lone wolf thing. So I had this lone wolf thing for a long time, trying to do everything by myself. I have a lot of respect for the will to do that, but a lot of times it's just their own mind. It's just in their own, creating this fantasy world. And that happens a lot, actually. And so don't do it alone. There's enough people that are on a spiritual path that you can at least be for a while until you know that that's not what you want to do. So I mentioned some of them in this video. And one another point, it's try to find a live one, like a spiritual movement that is alive. Like Christianity, it's a dead spiritual movement, unless you know some Christian person that is doing something very new, and I don't know, maybe it is spiritual, but a lot of them are dead, like OSHO. Like OSHO himself said that once an enlightened person passed away, after a while, people need to stop following him, because when he spoke to the people at that time. So the things he said were matching the people back then. Let's say in Osho cases in the 70s, he talked to a certain kind of mind of people. And now you hear it as a person in 2021, it's totally different. And try to find new ones. So a few of them I mentioned in this video: possibility management, some path that I'm on, Sadhguru. You can start on YouTube listening to him. What other things are there? So I had a few in mind actually, but now I forgot. Maybe I'll write them down. And also self-development in some cases. I feel sometimes it's alive, sometimes it's dead. Depends on the mentor or the person. And I hear some other things. It's not the only ones, but I wish you're gonna find them. I wish you're gonna find what actually called you, the path that calls you to go through it without doing this alone as a one lone wolf, because the path is beautiful. Beyond the path is the real joy in life. It's not the joy of, yes, I conquered, I got to the next level, I'm black belted meditation. It's not about that. It's about doing this together, having this joy of just like a let go. It's a let go and holding on together. You let go and you hold on at the same time, and that's the spiritual path. So when you go on that path, remember, sometimes you need to hold on to do all these practices, to do all these things that are hard, and sometimes it's a let go, just like enjoying being with people and enjoy being on the path, even though you're not there yet, and I'm not there yet, and who knows, I think there's no there on that path. I even listen to people that, like Sadhguru, that he speaks, is enlightened and still his life keeps surprising him and give him new things, new challenges that amaze him. So the path is ongoing. Stay on that path, and please, I would love in that context if you share something down below, something from your path, something, maybe a struggle that you had, or some celebration that you have on your path, and I feel the wind around me is calling me to finish this video. So if there's anything unsaid, please write to me. I would love to be in contact with you and walk the path with you. Good luck, and I see you next time.